All right, we'll go ahead and start getting cranked up. I appreciate everybody getting in better lighting sections so we can actually see you and adjusting your lighting. I see Shane was doing some window adjustments and a couple of y'all have moved. That's good. I can see everybody great right now. So y'all did a great job with getting positioned. I'm going to go ahead and pray for us, and then we will go ahead and get right into things. So I know this might be all we have tonight because, like I said, I know flag football started tonight, games, and baseball games are going, and we got a lot of other people that are out of town that have said we're going to be out of town, or I know we got a birthday party going on tonight. So there's a lot of things happening. So some people asked me to record. So tonight we're actually recording. We'll see how that works. I don't know if it's just going to be whatever my screen looks like or how it will work, but it is recording. I tested it. It worked on a little test run. So we'll hopefully get that out. So if you miss from here forward, we'll still get the discussion, but I will take notes and send out the notes as well. So let me go ahead and pray for us, and then we'll get going. God, I thank you for this group that's meeting tonight. I pray that you will help us to all learn from one another as we think about connecting with our kids. I pray that you'll always help us think of the words to say and things to do to keep those connections going. We thank you. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So, Andrew, why don't you start us out with your first question about the material? Because Andrew was feeling good about the material, as was I. And Andrew, let us know what you think about the first question should be tonight.
Honestly, I think the first question is, what did you guys learn from that video? Because super convicting on multiple levels, as well as I told Evan, she had a lot. I wrote down a lot of great one-liners that she just said, just one-line sentences. I was like, fantastic. So, thoughts?
Well, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
The thing was about the boredom and how, even on car rides, even when our daughter doesn't have her technology with us, she'll have something else like a book or something to draw, so we don't have those conversations. And how easy, I guess, that she gets bored, that she has to have something to entertain herself with, even on short car rides.
Yeah, definitely. What are some ways, follow-up question for you, Lily, some ways that you thought, like, how can I communicate with her during those? How can I make those intentional times?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, we got Lily's account up. My name's Penny.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault.
Lily's the daughter, but
yeah,
that's something we really need to work on, about having, like they were talking about, just that time when they don't see you, looking at you in the face, that's more likely the time that they're going to talk to you about important things, like how she mentioned, in the dark, or having, standing in their doorway at night after you turn out the lights. Those type of things. So that's something we need to work on, is having more conversations, I guess, in the car.
Yeah.
That was one thing that she said that really, I thought to myself, that's very interesting, but I can just see my kids going, what are you doing in my door? Like, that's kind of creeper too. That kind of, I don't know about that one, but I'm sure they'll ask me what I'm doing. And then if I said, do I talk about anything? Both of mine probably would say, sure. And just start blabbering away about who knows what, but I don't know how good that will be, but I think it would work.
Yeah.
Who else? Now, if you didn't watch, don't feel bad. You'll soak it in from the rest, and we have lists, but it's like Andrew said, there was so much to take in. Certainly, y'all must have thought something must have triggered oh man, I stink at that. I know for me, there was a lot of guilt going on in this one, for sure.
Mark's a big proponent of car talking because Mark's different than me, because he normally has one of them at a time. He doesn't normally have both, and we have a boy and a girl, so that makes a difference. Mark did the talk for Hampton in the car. He's like, it was great. We had an hour's drive to a baseball tournament. It was cut and dry, good, done, great, in the car. But I said it's been kind of weird, I guess, during all of this COVID. I was sitting here thinking, we don't really have anything to deal with. There's no relationships. So right now we're just kind of surface stuff. So when I ask a lot of questions to my son, he's the one that's like, why are you asking so many questions? And then our daughter is a talker, so we don't have to ask questions. She just loves to chit chat. But so Mark's a big proponent of the car talking. He likes that. But yeah, I agree, Evan. It was very convicting, because I've noticed at night, like when everybody's settled, I'll look at my phone more just as like a relaxation, a downtime. And I've noticed Hallie will ask a lot, can I have 5 minutes on Facebook to look? And I'm just like, oh, you know, she shouldn't be asking that. Like she's doing that because she's looking over my shoulder and looking at mine, you know? So I'm like, maybe that's probably not the best role model. I mean, I know she's going to look at it, but I don't want her to be like the girl in the video. Did y'all watch the bonus? I was talking about the bonus girl.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched the bonus video.
Yep.
Yeah.
What else we got? Anything else?
In the bonus video, at the end, the two parents talking about how it has been a battle with their daughter, and something the mother said about it's not a battle with their daughter, it's a battle with culture.
Yep.
And it's a battle with the social media. I thought that was powerful in that just remembering it's not Olivia and Davis that I'm fighting my children, it's culture, it's the norm for every other family that I'm fighting against.
That's a great point. And I thought the same thing when it was a little bit, to me, that was a little relief of going, it's not the fight I'm having with my kid. It's the fight of you're just getting exposed to too much. I'm looking out for you, not the fight of you shouldn't get to do this. Like it's the way you frame it is so different. And I think that a lot of that has to do with if you can set everything up good on the front end. Like that's why the younger your kids are, I think the better, because I think you would have avoided some of the things like I guarantee with that family's 2 and 3 year old, they're not going to have the same problems they had with their 17-year-old when they come through it the next time. And I love how they always say it's never too late. You can go back, you can fix it, and you can. But I also feel like when I heard that, I thought to myself, you can get ahead of the battle. That is a good situation, and it's a battle. And it's not the kid. It is the culture, and that's what you're dealing with.
Yeah, one of the ways that I've heard it spoken of, and how she spoke about it, but she didn't actually use this terminology, is something called the ministry of presence. I don't know if anybody else has heard anything like that terminology before. What it is theological talk about you teaching and you being fully present. She said she laid claim to that. She just didn't talk about the ministry of presence. And the more you think about it, and the more you look at your children, and the more we just look at ourselves, right? On our tablets, our devices, on social media, things like that, we can walk into a room and not talk to somebody for 30 minutes now and just be on our phone the entire time. And that ministry of presence, what are we communicating when we do that? One, and two, for instance, as Joy brought up, I'm a proponent, man, downtime, you do what you have to do to get downtime. And that looks different for every single person out there, no matter what. So not to hit on you on here, but when we're together as a family unit, your family unit, are you cultivating a ministry of presence? That's my thought process with it. Are you cultivating a ministry of presence? And so social media is not a bad thing, but if we're cultivating a ministry of social media in the sense of we're just on our devices, then we're just really cultivating a ministry of individuality and not actually of family.
Yeah. And I think, Andrew, that's a really hard, I think that one hits hard for people who are downtimers of like my wife's downtime is a media thing, like for unwinding is TV and this and that. Well, like she works a monster long day and comes home and needs to unwind. It's like that person in the video was talking about, do you feel guilty about not doing that? And she does feel guilty. And I'm like, it's okay. You got to unwind or you'll kill the child. It's going to be all right. You know? And so it's a matter of figuring out how do you do that and still be present and still make it work.
Yeah, how do you create this ministry of presence as well as enjoying your downtime too? Yeah. You know, and she talks about that in the video somewhat when she talks about the dad who just comes home and reads like all of these journal articles and different things, and then it's dinner time. right? And I actually would push back to her and say, well, if your kids are awake during dinner time and they're awake after dinner time, you can still cultivate the ministry of presence and do all the things that she kind of was speaking negatively against.
Yeah.
Because there's some people who, as Evan said, you work a hard 12-hour shift and you come home, 30 minutes to yourself, though it's kind of feels selfish, might actually give you 3 hours of family time that are great, instead of 3 hours of family time that are just yeah. And then you get 30 minutes to yourself. So it's just, how do you cultivate it? That's my thing.
All right. So another question we had on there, no one has anything else to add on the just general stuff, was, do y'all have any digital free zones? She talked about dinner tables being digital free. We've talked about how getting your kids to put the things in the bedroom are digital free, like after a certain time when their bedroom might be digital free. Do y'all have any of those zones? Do you enforce them? And how has that worked? What do you think?
We do. We don't let our children have phones in their room at night. Like, they don't charge in their room. They go in Mark's office, and they don't have TVs in their room. Although Hampton has his TV/gaming system in the playroom, which is connected to his room, but we control it through our Alexa. So when we go off, we shut all of that off through Mark's phone. And that way, you know, he's not up playing video games all night, which I don't really think he would do that. He's our rule follower and he is okay with all that. And we also have it at dinner, although Mark violates it sometimes, because sometimes when we're at dinner and he's got clients in California that are still needing him, but we try really hard. So dinner and definitely night, like at a certain time, it's like 9 o'clock. I mean, our son's 14, so 9 o'clock, the phone is gone.
Was that something, Joy, that y'all put in place from the very beginning, or did you have to enforce it?
Yes. No, Mark had one of those contracts that he went over with Hampton and they signed it. Now that doesn't mean he's technology free at 9 o'clock. I mean, he still gets to watch TV or play video games, you know, until we go to bed, usually around 10:15, 10:30 in the summertime, not during school. But we just have all of that kind of set up before it was done.
Yeah. What else y'all got? Anybody else have those same ones or different ones, or not doing that yet?
And we have the same ones. Nothing at dinner. Brooklyn charges her phone here in the kitchen, and I think like at 8:30, she has to bring it in there, and she's pretty good about it so far now. I think one time she might have forgotten. I forgot too, because you know how that goes. But she does pretty good so far with it.
Pretty much same then for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have any of our veterans with the older kids in here tonight, which I'm sad about, because they can give more insight and light on how that works as they get older, because I know I'm pretty sure not all of them are on the nightly bring it back to charge plan. And so eventually, like, you have to get to a point where that's not necessarily what they do. You could, until they're 18 years old, have them charging their phone downstairs, and that's just how it is. But I think eventually it has to get to a point where you start developing and allowing that person to charge in their room and explaining to them what's good, what's not good. I'll show y'all some books remind me in the end to show y'all some books that I just got that are amusing, but mind-blowing, but this is where we're at type thing. So remind me to do that. But I wish we had some of them to speak into because our oldest is only 12, and right now sometimes I've let him charge in his room if he tells me and he's honest, and then he's already broken that, and I've had to say, okay, we can't do that for a while, and then we might want to do that again later, and that sort of thing. Because as that happens, sometimes he's playing later than I'm actually, like, I want to go to sleep, but I'm okay with him playing a little bit longer, but I want to sleep. So I'm like, fine, just charge whatever, but make sure it's on a charger. And then if I wake up and he's still on it, you're in trouble type thing. And so, so that's where, like, it's going to get trickier as they get older, because most juniors and seniors in high school aren't charging their phone in their parents' room anymore. So that's where Andrew and parents, that's why I wish we had some of our vets in here to go over that. but maybe they can lend some light into that on our next class. That could probably be a good thing. On any of them, when do you transition that phone? Because honestly, we're way too early. Like I'm the only person I know that's not charged their kid's phone in their room sometimes. Like most of my people, they do. So, all right. What are your personal weaknesses when it comes to technology? That was like one of the questions. And I'll start. Like my weakness is the thing that I do more than anything is probably just scroll Facebook. And I'm not even like I just like to know what's going on. I'm just nosy, if I'm being honest. Like I like to know what's going on in people's lives. I just check it all out. Okay. I don't post a lot on Facebook. I would just look at a lot on Facebook. And then if I'm bored, that's something I might end up doing. Usually I don't watch a lot of TV until it's just late at night. It's the last thing to do, but I'm not really, I don't use a lot of media to do things except it's just killing time doing Facebook or something like that. But that's my thing. What are some of y'all's weaknesses when it comes to media? What do you think? Don't all go at once.
I said the same thing as you have, and I end up just scrolling. We don't really watch a whole lot of TV and really don't watch any news too much anymore. And that has become like the social news, if you will, just kind of seeing, pictures, what's going on in everybody's life, kind of keeping up, especially now that, we're not getting together in person as much.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm social. I just want to see what everybody's doing and comment on everybody's thing and tell them how cute they are and all that stuff.
Yeah. Michelle, you said something about it being news. Like to me, I actually really do get all the news from Facebook. Like I don't even need to not like the fake news, like legitimate news. Like if someone's like, oh, did you hear so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, I did. If it's not on Yahoo News and not on Facebook, I don't know about it. Sorry. Like Yahoo News feed and Facebook feed is about it. I don't ever even turn the TV on for the news. So unfortunately. So Shane, yeah, I probably got a lot of fake news thrown through here, but I really don't have an opinion on most news anyway. So it's really not a big deal. What else? What are some other weaknesses y'all think? Bastards, what about y'all? I saw y'all doing some chit chat in there.
Well, I'd say we're a little older generation. We didn't grow up with social media.
Right.
So we don't, I'm kind of more of a private person. So I lurk on Facebook, or we will, but we're not a big poster,
Right.
of anything. So we get our news mostly from the news. I'd say I get most of my technology at work. So by the time 5 o'clock comes, I'm kind of done with it. I guess my downfall is the TV. But otherwise, I don't really spend a lot of time after hours.
It's funny you say the generation thing, because I really think like, even I feel like I'm older, like, and I'm like, I don't want to do all that. I don't want to binge watch a series on Netflix, and I don't want to, like, that's not really what I want to do. Like, I get it. And I think if I was 10 years older, I'd definitely be like, I'm just out altogether. You kids do that, and I don't care. So I think the weaknesses are less, but I think younger parents, their weaknesses are outrageous because they're on like Instagram and Snapchat, and they go crazy just like our teens would. Like, so it's almost like the same thing. I'll never forget when I had to make the transition from Facebook to Instagram for kids ministry parents, and I was like, "What do you mean? I don't even know how to do that. Like that's crazy." And so, but now all the parents, they're Instagram generation, not Facebook generation. So it's crazy.
But I guess a weakness, I'll tell one of Chris's weaknesses, maybe I'll tell on him. He's a gamer. He's more of a video game player, and that kind of spills over into our daughter's life, gets her into, playing on video games. But it's not an excessive amount, I guess, that, we have to worry about or anything. And she's still, 11, to where we can still kind of control, the amount of time she spends on it. And of course, after certain hours, cut it off.
Right. And my wife's a gamer too, and she games with my son and his friends. Yeah. It's quite a problem. So I get it.
But I agree with what you said, Evan, about finding out about stuff on social media. Because for a while there, I got off, and Hampton doesn't have social media. So like I wouldn't know what was going on at church because, Andrew communicates through Instagram, which is great. And I was like, I felt like I don't have a problem, so I could control it. But I was like, I need this social media to be in the know. Like if I don't have it, I feel like I'm missing out, just because it's a lot of ways that people communicate. I mean, our schools, church. I mean, that's why, like you said, it's not a bad thing. We just have to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
So But yeah, I'm nosy too. I'm not a poster much. I just watch people and see what people are doing, see all the crazies out there.
Plenty on Facebook. Ms. Clark, what about you? Do you have any that would be yours?
I'm gonna sound like I'm 100 years old, and I don't know, maybe not everybody's gonna believe me when I say this, but I'm not on Facebook. I have never been on Facebook. I've never had a Facebook account. I'm not on social media and never have been, and neither has my husband. And I guess that's just a personal choice. We've just never been, or we've never felt compelled to venture in that world. I know it's hard to believe.
Not really.
You sound really old or like a stick in the mud, but I don't know. It's at times been tempting because it really is a disadvantage in a lot of ways. We really miss out on a lot. And I see that, but in a lot more ways, it's been advantageous to us, I think. But I think with a daughter that's kind of creeping into that preteen world, and Kevin and I not being on any type of social media, we don't know what it's about. We don't really know what's lurking out there. And so it's probably going to prove to be a disadvantage, possibly. But as far as my weakness, I can get really involved in, I don't know, I'm a doer, like a DIYer, home projects. Just today, I got into something and the kids are like, hey, can we go do this? Let's go do this. I'm like, 30 more minutes. Let me just finish this up. Let me finish painting something, or let me finish, So that's my weakness. It's just getting involved in one of my projects and getting lost in that.
Got it. Let me ask you this. When you were, like you said, y'all aren't in social media world yet, okay? So I'm glad you're in the class because I think you're going to get a lot of tools that's going to help make this transition. But, the people in the video or in that bonus video were like, flip phone now, no social media. Like, has that rolled into y'all's minds about, I don't want my kid on social media? Is that why y'all haven't done it? Or is it just really, you just didn't want to do it? You see what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out the thought process that got you there. And are you thinking my daughter's going to need this, so we need to get in and see? Like, so where are you at on that?
I don't want her on social media anytime soon.
Right.
But I know, she's around it. She's familiar with it. It's less so now that we're all at home. But I know at school, there's been talk in the past of kids on social media. So, Kevin and I haven't gotten into social media just because we don't want our children on it. It's just, I don't know. We've never felt compelled to, I don't know. The benefit to us just really hasn't outweighed the disadvantages, I guess. Like I said, it has at times been tempting, but not tempting enough to make that leap. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, no, that is, because basically, to me, the people in the video did it straight out of, they said it's for protection, and basically like creating a bubble around their child with the protection of, just like they use the illustration of, I put a fence around my house to protect our house, and I put a fence around my child would know this and some people are very strongly feel that way. And while I respect that, and that's how they will do that's how they want to do it, that's fine. And then I think there's parents on the whole other end that are like, give the kid the phone at 6, hope they're okay, we'll see what happens. And that's the spectrum. And I just wanted to know if when in our original process, it was more thinking like, because some of the processes, I have friends who are just like y'all, like friends from a long time ago, and I'm like, how is this person from high school not on Facebook? And I know it's just because they don't care. In high school, they never cared about what other people were doing, and they still don't care about what other people are doing, so they're not on social media. They don't see much benefit to do it. Or if it was like kind of like that family was like, I don't know, I don't want my kid doing this. I see what's out there, and let's protect them. And it's two different thoughts, and that's why I just wanted to see kind of where you were. And I think you're more in the not really that interested, but definitely still don't want my kids on it right now, because I think every parent who when your kid gets to be about 10 thinks, I don't want my kid anywhere near this. Like, I know I thought that because it's crazy. It's like y'all all said, it's crazy on social media. So I don't want my kid involved in crazy. Like, I get it. And then, so you just got to figure out where it is and how to navigate. And that's why things like this class are great. So excellent. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry if I did.
And a lot of it comes from, we made it this far without being on Facebook, and hey, we're still alive and we're still thriving. So, why do it now? So yeah. I don't know.
No, exactly. So one of the things that it talked about also in connecting and doing family activities was doing family service projects and things like that. And I thought that was such a great one that I know we have a lot of families. Our church is actually very missions oriented, and we do a lot of things as a church where your family could get involved and do something like that. And I wondered if any of y'all have ever done things like as a family through church, separate from church. What are some things you might have done? I thought this would be a great platform to get some ideas on things to do as a family that are service things. Because I think, honestly, I feel like service with your families is one of the biggest ways you show kids who Christ is, by you modeling it. And I'll be honest, every kid I know whose family does it, they're different. And they're different in a good way. They're different because they see other people's needs a little better, kind of like the passages we're talking about in Philippians 2:3 and Colossians 3 in the end there. They view things a little different. And I think a lot of it has to do with modeling from their family and doing things like that. So what are some things that y'all have seen done, or like that you're like, oh, they do this is good? What have y'all got or heard of?
I'll jump in again. I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but we're actually members of Orville Baptist Church.
Right.
And we have a really, Lily's the oldest child in the youth. Everyone else is younger. And right now with COVID, she's the only child attending. And that's one of the reasons we try to get involved more at Concord. We put her through the Awanas, and we try to get involved in some of the Bible studies and things. But some of the things that we do down there, we have a large homeless population, and putting together bags of food. We're not doing it regularly, but that is something our church does a couple Wednesdays out of the month. And that's something that we could be more involved in, as putting together care packages and, showing her more of that. She's done it some with like Vacation Bible School and sometimes with their Sunday school class. But again, we're not very good at doing it regularly.
But that's cool. That's a start, and that's getting somewhere. That's a great one to get kids involved with, because that's visibly seeing people with a lot more needs than they have, Any others?
Our Sunday school class likes to go to AIM, and we've done it 2 or 3 times. And we help pack the snack bags for the backpack program with District 5. And my kids love that. They love getting together with their friends and sorting through all the food and packing the food and having a special job. They get assigned a job when we get there. So we've done that. And then with Hampton's baseball team, we've packed food. I don't know if any of y'all have done it, where you actually like pour the macaroni in the Ziploc bag and you seal it, and it's like an assembly line. A company comes and they set it up for you. So we've done that as well, and they enjoy that. And then of course, Operation Christmas Child, which I'm sure probably all of us have done, going and picking out special toys and things for those type children. And we always try to explain to them why we do it and how important it is for those boys and girls.
Cool. Melissa, you were going to go ahead.
Yeah, so we've done, a couple summers ago, we did Meals on Wheels routes together. And so they'd come in, they'd help get all the meals together, and then we'd go to the houses to deliver. And another thing on a more personal note is there was a girl in one of Caroline's classes who had a really poor family situation. They did not have a lot of money. The mom had left. And there were many children in the house, and so we found a way to provide Christmas for their family without them knowing, kind of an anonymous thing. But that was somebody they knew and they could see, and they were able to participate in that, which was good. They enjoyed that.
That's cool. I've heard a few stories of similar things like that. When they can actually see the kid in their class and know who it is, that's huge.
We have not done it this year, but in the summers the previous summers, I think the Stone class does it now, but they did a backyard Bible club at Turtle Trace, and it was on Wednesdays. Like I said, I don't know about this year, but
They still did it. I mean, they did like a camp type thing.
but that was something that our kids would go to Vacation Bible School, so they would kind of know the stories, and then we would go basically teach the kids at an apartment complex in Anderson that we ride by all the time. And so then when we would ride by the apartment complex to go to Chick-fil-A or Publix or wherever, the kids would be like, oh, we need to pray for these kids. You know, it's like it was also a constant reminder for them to think of those kids. Some of the kids at our church, I think, even go to school with them.
Yep,
my kids
absolutely.
something differently.
For sure.
It's on a different note.
What's that, Shane?
This is on a different note. This is not a service project, but you know that we lead the college ministry with Andrew. And as we do that, I think it's cool to see your kids serve alongside you. You know, we have college small group at our house, we have events, and our kids are capable of serving. There's a time at which they have to go to their room and we have Bible discussion. But here they are, and they get to serve alongside us in the ministry that we're a part of. But they get to see that, and it's twofold because those college kids love on them the same.
Right. Right. So they're getting exposed to even more Christ followers who are having more of an influence on their life, and they're serving alongside and learning this is how you serve in the church, which is awesome.
Right.
Cool. You know, all the ones I had written down just as in case you guys have pretty much covered. The only thing is they also do some family mission trips at our church. A lot of families get involved in that. They do it at a very affordable rate. I, a couple of summers, have taken a more expensive trip to Canada, which has to be kind of like your vacation and mission trip, but that's more like a soccer camp type thing that we would just work with. But it's always been all the families that do those sort of things, they come back and they love getting to service families. Chad Bice does one now with a missions group, and they go to Kentucky, which is only 4 hours, and they just got back and he had a great time, and I can't wait to hear more about that. But our church has lots of opportunities, but even trying to think of things just once a month, whether it's keeping some bags in your car, like for homeless, you can always just go drive by where the QT is and Hobby Lobby in that little area. There's people right there every time. If you want to go drop off a bag to somebody downtown in the letter streets, there's folks all over there that you could just drop those packs with your kids, and they literally see a person who is homeless getting a bag and them being happy and you talking to them about God, and it's a whole different ball game at that point. They start to get it. So that's cool. All right. So I have a few left here. I don't think that one really applies a lot. So let's do this one. If you feel your child has an addiction to their device, what would you do to break them free? Like, and how would you do it? And have any of y'all had to do that? See, that's why I was wishing we had some olders too, but what else do we got? Have any of y'all? So like, I would definitely say, like, when we had the conversation to start the class, both my kids said, oh, we're addicted. Like, no doubt. Like that we spend too much time. And so what we have done is tried to scale back the time and haven't done fantastic, but done better than we have been doing. So what do y'all think is like a reasonable, if you like, hopefully you're not to that point, but if you are, what have you done or what are you thinking you might do after thinking through this stuff? And I guess I'm the only one whose kid was out of control.
I have a funny story. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but when we first allowed our son to have time on video games, and it was like football games or baseball games or whatever it wasn't anything major. So we decided, it was like probably Mark's old PlayStation or something. He was probably younger, 6 or 7, and Mark would play with him. But we found that he was waking up and it was in Mark's office. And so Hampton, we thought, was sleepwalking at some point, but he wasn't. He was like getting up in the middle of the night, his little 6-year-old self, going to Mark's office, like setting it up and playing it. So I was like, Mark, I think he's getting up and doing it. So the next night we locked the door to the office, and then we heard something and came out, and he had stacked a chair with pillow upon pillow upon pillow to climb to the top of the door to get the key. So I was like, okay, that is it. Like, obviously he's too young. His little brain cannot handle this. So we just cold turkey said, absolutely not. You're not playing anymore. But I just thought that was funny looking back on that now, because he was so like somehow was waking up in the middle of the night, clawing to get to that game. And I was like, Mark, it's just too much for his mind. So we took a break for several years, and we've never had a problem with it since. But that was just an example. It was just too early. He wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. All right. I have other questions. Don't worry. So here's the thing. Once the kids get on their devices, whatever they are, because they're going to have something like an iPad, whatever. It's important to know, I think this question was in the dive deeper section, okay? It said, what types of things are you personally filling your heart and mind with when you're on your devices? So you ask that question to you, and then you ask your kids the same question. And then how does that impact the way you live and the people around you? So let's talk a little bit just kind of about that question. I'll throw it out there one more time, which is what types of things are we filling our heart and mind with when we use our device, which we talked about that a little in the beginning already. And how does this impact the way you live and the people around you? So if we ask those questions to our kids and we think about them ourselves, what are some things you think we would say, and how would our kids answer that? And then what would we do about that? I know that's 3-part, but go for it.
I would say, like, that's a lot of questions, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to answer all that and remember. But one thing, as far as filling your mind, I think that kind of goes back with all the stuff with the news. I think so much negativity can really bring you down, and just kind of limiting and looking at what you're putting in, because it really affects what comes out and how you think and how you feel. So, you know, kind of thinking about that as far as, you know, what they're looking at on social media. Is it a positive influence, or is it more negative, or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, in that book that she wrote, so I actually have read a good bit of the book, the Screen Time, that the doctor wrote. And one of the things she talked about was how when you know, a long time ago, when people would watch the news at the movie theater, you know, the war was going on. Well, they didn't show any gory shots of a war. They showed pictures that would not make you think the war was so awful. Whereas now we're in the total opposite. We're literally, I mean, you could watch someone get beheaded on a social media feed. That's terrible news, you know. And so it just got me thinking, man, something is that used to be standard. You would watch it. The news is now, I don't even want my kid near the news because they're going to be scared to death, you know, about what's going on. So I think that's a great point, Melissa. You know, what you're seeing is important. So what else? So let's just take them one at a time, since I've obviously overwhelmed all y'all. What types of things are you filling your heart and mind with when you're on your device? Okay. So if we ask our kids that, what do you think they would say?
Well, I was going to say that I had this conversation with our, like, the dive deeper questions, where like I asked them.
Great.
And so Ansley,
that's 11-year-old daughter.
Yeah, by the way, well, yeah, when like in the beginning of the session, when the doctor said that the relationships of your children like form their thoughts on things, I thought, well, a lot of Ansley's little friends' parents are in here, so that's good. Good for us. But anyway, she remembers, like, not very long ago, maybe last year, she was watching those little teen Disney shows.
Yeah.
Like, pop a little attitude, you know, and we had to kind of take a break from those and be like, that's just a TV show, and you're not, you know, they're mouthing off at their babysitter or whatever. We're not doing that. You know, you're not going to talk to me that way. Like, so we had to kind of take a little break. And so that's what Ansley remembered. She thought, well, I remember that time I was filling my mind with.
Yeah, you're not Jessie, the babysitter. You're Jennifer, the mom. Let's get that straight.
Right. So that was my example.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. What else have y'all seen? If you asked your kids that, what would they say?
I think it was in one of the first videos, with Kirk Cameron talking about technology, some of these video games, the reward system. And that I think she enjoys playing and liking the technology because she gets something out of it, or she's wanting to make that progression, or she wants to get. We just got this thing called Star Stable that she wanted to purchase, and every Wednesday it gets an upgrade, and
Yeah.
it's all horses, and she's into
Yep.
horses now. So she's excited now for every Wednesday to see the new horses or upgrades that they put out on this thing. So for her, it's what she's getting out of it, I guess. What kind of rewards or what kind of things can she buy?
Exactly. And every game has them.
Yeah.
Every game has them. And some cost money and some don't. And luckily the Star Stable is Wednesday. It's not when you get to the games like Fortnite, these things come out at like 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning. Your kid went, like Noah said, I'm going to go to sleep at 8 so I can sleep till 4 so I can wake up and download the game and see what the new stuff is and then go back to sleep. I'm like, you are crazy, but have fun. I don't care. Like it's whatever. But I'm not waking up at 4, but you can. So it's crazy though how all that works, and then establishing the boundaries and figuring out. But every game has something like that, and everything they do, even educational, it's no different. You're going for a reward, and the more the kid, like I said, so she's into horses. That's her thing. Someone else is into the surfing game where they get the coins and spell the things. It don't matter what it is, it's going to be something. So that's a good one, and just remembering that. So in other words, maybe even talking to your child about, you are aware that this is like just a system that's setting you up to want more, and this is why you want more, and then they just know that, and then at least they're aware. So that would be a good talk to have. What else? So here's one so the second one was, how does that impact the way you live? But the third one was, how does it impact the people around you? So I think this is a great conversation to have with your kids about, like, Jennifer, you said a lot of my friends are in here. Like, what you see happen is all the apps that your friends have, that's the apps you want. Like, it's not, in other words, my daughter, she literally would search for an app that she wants because she wants it. Because like, she might be like, I really like horses, or I really like whatever, or mermaids, and she might search for a mermaid app because that is her. She's more individual type. She's okay. My son is more, hey, so-and-so's got that app. How come I don't have that app? Can I get that app? What about that app? Like, and it's more of just what everybody has. He's older. Like, so the older they get, the more it's kind of like what everyone has. But then the question is, how does what they're watching and doing impact the people around them? So how do you think they'd answer that question? Because most of y'all are thinking like a video game type thing.
Right. My thought process is completely different. What you see on TV, what you see on social media, how often do you see the B-sides? Evan was talking about media. One of my things is, I'm not necessarily an audiophile. I like what I like, but it gets played for like 8 to 10 hours a day as I'm at my desk next to me so I can focus on something else. Musicians don't put out their B-sides. Musicians don't put out their bad stuff. And so what the difficulty we have as parents now is to discuss reality. What is reality with each one of your sons or daughters' friends? We talk about all the time in the news, every news story has a slant, right? What is the reality there? And so for them, it becomes an identity issue when all of their friends have those apps, or all of their friends made the cheerleading team, or all of their friends got that new car at 15 and a half because South Carolina has stupid laws. That's coming from Georgia. We couldn't drive until we were 16 by ourselves. So, and then you got to talk about reality of what that looks like. And so that's how that affects the hearts and the minds. I think that Evan's really, that question's driving home. And those come back to intentional, real conversations, like actual conversations that we have to have with our children.
I think when we think about the media stuff and how much time is spent on it, a good question that we've always talked about, it seems to come up around camp and things like that. And it's all your decisions either bring you closer to God or further away from God. Okay. And there's a lot of things we do that we do just because like they're things we like to do, and they're kind of in this zone right here. But what happens is a lot of this media stuff, especially when we hit Instagram, Snapchat, because of the mean nature of children and teens and preteens, it starts pushing us this way because we're now on this thing where we got to look a certain way because they do, like Andrew's saying, or your child might say something on there that they wouldn't normally say. Like just last week, my daughter literally, the door's open, because that's how she does the thing. And so she's on a game and I hear her yell at one of her friends from school. She said, "You are so stupid." And I was like, oh, here we go. So like I had to go in there, like she finished the game. It's like one of her good friends. I'm like, Lainey, let's have a little talk about this. I said, now, first of all, if your friend would have called you stupid, how would you feel? And she would have been crying if her friend called her stupid, I promise you. And so she's like, well, not very good. I'm like, no. So we had to have the talk of, this is media, this isn't the real world, and this is causing you to act a way that is not Christ-like, and I don't want to see that anymore. And so it's the teachable moment that had to happen. But my point is, if we're looking at that spectrum, how does this make you feel? Is there anything wrong? It was playing Roblox. Is there anything wrong with Roblox? No. I mean, yes, actually there is, because if you let them go in the wrong rooms, it can be awful. But in general, with her friends, they're not going to the crazy rooms, and it's very innocent. And so in general, I let her play the game, but it does have some very negative impacts that if we don't address them, it's going to pull her further away from God and turn her into like the Satan child of crazy, which is what has happened in that time. And so, so it's a matter of me having conversations, and then trying to use, so the thing we do, which is plus side on there, is we do a thing called Superbook on her phone. So the phone isn't all bad. We do a devotion on the phone. We do a thing where we go over it. So like, to me, that's one thing that I'm moving, that's pushing her this way. Whereas the things she want to do, some of them sit right here, but there's some apps she gets on that turn her this way. And it's them recognizing if that's doing that to them. Like, and it can even be as little. So I'm not as competitive as my wife, but we do play video games. Like, that's like one of the things we do. If I beat her in a video game, it is not a pretty picture. There's some rage and there's some anger. Sometimes some words that aren't the nicest from her to me, if I win, which is very rare. But that's a terrible, like, that's just not a good, I don't want my kids doing that. You see what I'm saying? Like, and so just like I don't want her doing that, I have to say, can you settle down? Like, it's a thing that we have to go through, but it's not just them turning into someone. Some of it's just a general attitude thing about a device thing they're doing. So it's, to me, those are some very simple examples. Do y'all have any of those that you think, well, this has really turned you to a further from God or not Christ-like through these devices and things? Have you seen that in your kids? And what are some of the ones that you think we better put the roadblock up on this one? Anything? Anyone?
We haven't had any that we've had to block, but we've had some of his friends that are playing games that we don't allow, like that are mature, rated a rating that we just don't allow in our house. And these are friends that go to church. I mean, normal people that we see all the time at church in these groups. So we've just, and I think they have free reign too. They can go to bed whenever they want to, stay up and play these games. He's our firstborn, so I guess we're probably pretty strict. I don't know. Maybe we're too strict. I don't know. But we have to explain to him, this is why we don't let you play this game. And you're certainly not going to stay up playing a game we don't agree with while we're asleep. We're firm believers with, when we're asleep, you need to be asleep. That's just our rule. You don't need to be up doing other things. And, luckily he's been okay with not having the game. He really doesn't care about that. He would love to stay up later. But, we haven't had a problem with him playing a game that's made him act a different way, but we've just already had to have the conversation. There's certain games we're just not going to allow, and this is why.
Sorry, Joy, for allowing that game in your house and telling Hampton you. Just so y'all know, Joy had a game that I allowed Noah to play, and then Hampton said, well, bro, Evan lets Noah play it, and then Joy had to say,
I forgot about that.
Huh?
I forgot about that. Yes.
Sorry. I'm sorry. It was Fortnite. I'm sorry.
Well, that was a while ago and it wasn't that bad. But yeah, Hampton was like, Pastor Evan lets his kids play it. I was like, oh, well, maybe we need to rethink it.
It's okay.
So Evan,
Shane, go ahead.
one of my faults is, like I'm real quick to say no to something. That's not a problem for me. Social media, what have you, apps, screen time. I'm quick to say no, but Jennifer will tell you, I don't always give my kids a reason. It's the more the stern, no.
Yes.
And she's like, it would help if you told the kids why we're not doing this at this time, maybe some point later. So that's an area that I'm trying to work on. But that's an area that I'm just quick on as a dictator, I guess is the way it comes across. That's usually not how I am, but toward the kids, they probably think I am. I'm just quick to no.
Shane's answer is usually no, and so give him time to research something, and then he can come back and say yes, rather than say, I'm the yes person. So I'm usually like, try to figure out a way that our kids can do it.
Yeah.
And he's opposite in that. But he's always a no in the beginning to give him time to think about it.
Well, and to be honest,
it's probably the better way, but.
well, everybody's way is different. And like, here's the thing. I don't think we owe our kids an explanation on anything technically for real. Like, I'm like, we're the adult and you're the kid. Like, I get it. And that's how I was raised. If I ever asked my parent why, it would be like like, it was not like there wasn't this open forum. It was just a no, and that was that, and I was never, that was fine with me. I was like, okay, like whatever. But I would say this, as far as like, as Noah got older, he got to a point where he said, Dan, I really just like want to know, like, why? I'm not like, can't we just talk about it? And I was like, well, you're being very reasonable about it. Like, there's no reason I guess I shouldn't want to talk to you about it and explain it, because I'm like you, Shane, part of me on a hard no, it's like, I don't know where we're at. I got to figure all this out first, and then let's talk about it. So then now more of the process for me is more of a, well, I don't like this, and do you know why? And a lot of times he would say, yeah, that makes sense. Like, and you get more on the same page. It's kind of like when that contract we talked about in week 1, how if you do that with your kids, you're on the same page. So if you go through things together, it works well. So here's a perfect segue to this thing I promised you earlier in the class. So I always keep my resources updated, and they have this one book when you're having the talk for your kids, which is like supposedly the best book. And it starts when your kids are like 3 to 5, and you read them like a picture book. And then you have a 5 to 6 book, and then a 7 to 10 book, and then like 11 to 13 book. Okay. So it's these resources. Well, as I was going through all this, I ran across, because one of the things this talks about is, in the very beginning, we talked about how pornography may pop up, and that's something you're going to have to tell your kids. I don't want you to look at this. So now they have out good pictures, bad pictures. This is junior edition. Okay. So this one is like the next level. So this one is designed for ages. This is designed for like ages 6 to 8, which means this one is like 3 to 5 or whatever. And so like, I was like, holy cow, like we are really, we were at a point where it is out of control. When we were reading good pictures, bad pictures to our 3 to 5-year-old who is literally on a tablet, I'm like, how are we even there yet? But we are. And so, but honestly, I read this one in a whopping 2 minutes. That's all it takes. It's not like a hard read. So it just talks about the things that you want to watch, and then it gives you a strategy if you see a bad picture, 5 things that you want to do, which is like, obviously go tell your parent, obviously don't show this to another kid. It talks about if anybody wants to take a picture of you naked, you want to tell your parents, and honestly, some of this stuff we're like, well, that's common sense. But it is something that I'm like, we are there. We are to the point where even just, so these are actually, I read through this one already, and this one, if it's just the next one, I'm sure it's just as good. This one actually puts it in like sessions of like a day at a time, and then you do some questions together. So like, let's see. So like it's got like this, and then a let's talk. So like a couple pages are like a lesson, and then you ask questions and talk about it. Which to me, like, I wish I'd have had this like with Noah when he was younger, because that would help explain a lot of how damaging, like Andrew said with that book that you talked about, the Wired book, they understand this is bad, and it talks about this as, it basically puts it in the perspective of, and honestly, Noah knows a lot of this, not from these books. He knows it from public school. Like, in public school, they teach them this same thing. And I'm like, oh, well, at least you're learning it. Like, you know, at least it's coming from somewhere. Some of the things that are in here, he knew, like, yeah, you don't do that. And you don't use some of the social media stuff we've talked about. He's learned because they cover that in guidance. And I'm like, oh, something great coming from guidance, not lunatic crazy, but they associate this with like smoking bad, drugs bad for you, bad for your body. Looking at pornography, bad for you, rewires your brain. And I'm like, oh. And if we chain like back to the conversation thing, if you have to have the conversation, it's not just don't look at porn, it's wrong, it's terrible. Like that's the initial thought I have is don't do it. I don't know a reason, it's wrong. But this is why, and it goes over some of that, which I think is cool. You know, a lot better than just no, don't do it. So, all right, we got just a couple minutes left. Any closing thoughts or things or questions from Andrew? Anything else? Anybody that you ran across that either you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about, or something? We have 2 weeks left. Is there something that you want to talk about off these? Because I know in the beginning we talked about things we wanted to cover, and I know some of y'all might have had some things we may not cover. Like the Lewis's had, I can't remember what it was, but they had one that was a great one, and I can't remember, but I'll check back on that one and try and figure out what that was, and we'll cover that by the last class just so they can know. But if there are any things like that, keep those in mind because we got 2 weeks to research them and figure them out. Any closing remarks or things that y'all thought for the week? All right. Andrew, do you want to close us out and then pray?
Yeah, let's close this out. So let's pray. Father, we just come before you. I'm thankful for who you are, thankful that you love us and you provide for us and you sustain us and you've blessed us with the opportunity to be parents and what that looks like. And we continue to come to you and we ask for your wisdom and we ask for your discernment. And we come to ask daily for you to fill us with your spirit to provide us that strength that's daily necessary, Lord. Lord, we continue to pray over these parents as they push in and they push forward into this 21st century that is always morphing with new ideas of technology, with new uses of technology, and what that looks like, Lord. And Lord, just continue to pray for them that they make wise decisions and that they love their children with everything that they are, as you love them and as they push that into the world, Lord. We love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So next week we have what history teaches us. Very cool. It's a very cool one. So we have 2 weeks left. Y'all, like I said, if y'all have any other questions you think about when I send the summary out, if there's something you're thinking, Evan, we want to cover this a little more, because some of the resources in here this time were like making sure how to set up times and things like that for your kids. That book was one. And I'll send y'all out some hot points of that book maybe. But I think all y'all in this group are actually in good habits. So setting the habits, I think you all have a good grasp on that anyway. But that was some of the extras in there. And so if y'all got any questions, let us know. It was great having y'all tonight. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.